Lakers Nation, what I'm about to share with you today is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about this team's direction and force us to have a conversation that many fans aren't ready to have. There's a strategic shift happening within the Lakers organization right now, a potential move that's being discussed behind closed doors that would fundamentally reshape our roster construction and signal a definitive transition into a new era. This isn't about panic. This isn't about disrespect. This is about cold, calculated basketball strategy that prioritizes winning championships over sentimentality. What I'm going to reveal involves one of the most iconic players in franchise history and a decision that could define the next 5 years of Lakers basketball. Welcome to Lakers News Fan Report, your home for all the breaking news, exclusive updates, and insider analysis on our beloved Los Angeles Lakers. I'm here to bring you the most important developments, the smartest strategic breakdowns, and everything you need to know about where this franchise is headed. Today's update involves a potential transaction that will shock many of you, excite others, and force all of us to think critically about what it takes to build a championship contender in today's NBA. Stay with me because what you're about to discover will change how you view this team's future. Let me set the stage by talking about where we are right now as a franchise. The Lakers started the season with an impressive 10-4 record without Lebron James, who missed the first 14 games recovering from injury. That stretch proved something crucial. This team has legitimate talent beyond LeBron, and guys like Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, DeAndre Ayton, and Jake LaRavia can win games at a high level. When LeBron returned on Tuesday night, there was understandable concern about whether his presence would disrupt the chemistry that had been built during his absence. Those concerns were quickly put to rest as LeBron stepped into a complimentary role, finishing with 11 points, 12 assists, and 3 rebounds in a convincing victory. Head coach J.J. Redick praised LeBron's unselfishness and decision-making, noting how he didn't force anything and made great reads throughout the game. The 40-year-old looked like he understood exactly what this team needed from him, which was facilitating, making the right play, and letting the younger core carry the offensive load. It was encouraging to see, and it demonstrated LeBron's basketball IQ and willingness to adapt his game to what the team requires. However, and this is critical for everyone to understand, LeBron's return doesn't solve the fundamental issues that are preventing this Lakers team from being legitimate championship contenders. Right now, we're ranked 17th in defensive rating and 11th in rebounding percentage. Those are concerning numbers that expose real weaknesses in our roster construction. We need more consistent perimeter shooting to space the floor around Luka and LeBron. We need better rebounding to control possessions and limit second-chance opportunities for opponents. And most importantly, we need more dependable defense, particularly rim protection and interior presence. These aren't minor issues that can be fixed with adjustments or effort. These are structural problems that require roster changes to address properly. This is where the conversation gets really interesting and where I need you to keep an open mind about what I'm going to propose. The Lakers have been monitoring the situation in Dallas very closely, particularly after the Mavericks fired their general manager Nico Harrison. Dallas is at a complete crossroads right now, dealing with injuries that have prevented their Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis pairing from developing any chemistry or success. According to credible league sources, there's a growing belief around the NBA that the Mavericks will be best served by trading both of their star players and repositioning the franchise around Cooper Flag, their number 1 pick from 2025. The logic makes sense from Dallas' perspective. They have the 2026 first-round pick in what's being called a loaded draft class, and it's the only first-round selection they control for the rest of this decade. If they can maximize that pick by being bad this season and next, while also acquiring additional assets by trading their veterans, they could build a sustainable winner around young talent rather than continuing to chase success with an aging, injury-prone roster. This creates opportunities for teams like the Lakers, who are in win-now mode and need specific pieces to compete for championships. One player who's been identified as the most likely trade candidate from Dallas is Daniel Gaffford, the 27-year-old center who has experience playing with Luka Doncic and fits perfectly into what the Lakers need. Gaffford averaged 1.8 blocks and 4.1 defensive rebounds last season, providing exactly the kind of rim protection and interior defense that we're lacking. He's proven himself as an offensive asset in pick-and-roll situations with Luka, which means he already has chemistry with our franchise cornerstone. And perhaps most importantly, he's under contract through the 2028-29 season, giving us long-term security at a position where we currently don't have it with DeAndre Ayton's player option coming up next season. The Lakers have reportedly had interest in Gaffford dating back to last season, which tells you that our front office has been thinking about this move for quite some time. He represents the perfect blend of youth, defensive ability, offensive efficiency, and contractual security that championship teams need from their role players. Adding Gaffford would immediately improve our defense, give us better rebounding, provide insurance if Ayton opts out next summer, and create lineup flexibility that J.J. Redick could exploit in different matchups. This is exactly the type of strategic acquisition that separates good teams from great teams. But here's where this story takes a turn that many of you won't expect and some of you won't want to hear. The financial reality of acquiring Daniel Gaffford is extremely complicated. We're currently just $1.1 million under the first tax apron, and Gaffford has a salary of $17.3 million this season. To make the money work in any potential trade, the Lakers would need to send out significant salary. We don't have many expendable contracts that would match Gafford's number, which means we'd have to include players who are actually contributing to our success. And when you start looking at our roster and thinking about who makes that kind of money and might be available in trade discussions, there's really only one name that makes sense from both a financial and strategic perspective: LeBron. James is making over $40 million this season and is in the final year of his contract. From a pure salary matching standpoint, he's the only player on our roster whose contract would allow us to bring back Gaffford plus potentially additional pieces that address our perimeter shooting needs. Now, before you click off this video or leave angry comments, hear me out on why this isn't as crazy as it sounds and why it might actually be the smartest move the Lakers could make for our long-term championship aspirations. LeBron James is 40 years old and just began his 23rd NBA season. He's the greatest player of all time, a Lakers legend who brought us a championship in 2020 and someone who's given everything to this franchise. Nobody is questioning his legacy or his impact, but we have to be honest about where he is in his career and what's best for both him and the organization moving forward. LeBron is no longer the player who can carry a team to a championship as the primary option. He showed in his return game that he's most effective now as a facilitator and secondary scorer, which is a role that doesn't necessarily maximize the Lakers' championship window. The Lakers' future is built around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, two players who are in their prime or entering their prime, and who will be the face of this franchise for the next decade. Luka is 26 years old and already one of the 5 best players in the Porter NBA. Reeves is 27 and has developed into a borderline all-star who can score, facilitate, and defend at a high level. These are the players we need to build around, and that means surrounding them with the right complementary pieces rather than trying to balance their needs with what LeBron requires. Trading LeBron for Daniel Gaffford would accomplish multiple strategic objectives simultaneously. First, it would address our most glaring weakness by adding elite rim protection and interior defense. Second, it will give us long-term contractual security at the center position through 2029. Third, it would free up future financial flexibility to add more pieces around Luka and Reeves. Fourth, it would send a clear signal that we're committed to building around our young core rather than clinging to the past. And fifth, it would allow LeBron to potentially finish his career with a contender where he could play a complementary role without the pressure of being the face of the franchise. From Dallas' perspective, acquiring LeBron James makes sense if they're truly committed to competing one more time with their current core before blowing it up. LeBron playing alongside Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis will create a super team that could compete for a championship this season. And even if it doesn't work out, they'd have LeBron's expiring contract coming off the books next summer to rebuild around Flag. It's a low-risk, high-reward proposition for a franchise that's already facing difficult decisions about their future. I know this is difficult to process emotionally. LeBron James is a Lakers icon, and the thought of trading him feels wrong to many fans who value loyalty and legacy. But we have to separate emotion from strategy when we're talking about building championship teams. The harsh reality is that LeBron's championship window has closed, and continuing to build around a 40-year-old player who's no longer in his prime doesn't align with our long-term goals. We have a generational talent in Luka Doncic who's entering his prime right now, and we owe it to him and to ourselves as fans to put the best possible team around him. Think about what our starting lineup would look like after this trade. Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, Jake LaRavia, a versatile forward, and Daniel Gaffford. That's a lineup with elite offensive creation, improved defense, legitimate rim protection, and the right age profile to compete for championships for the next 5 years. We'd have Gaffford protecting the rim and cleaning up on the boards. We'd have Luka and Reeves running the offense. And we'd have the financial flexibility to add perimeter shooting through additional trades or free agency. This is how you build sustainable championship contenders in the modern NBA. The defensive impact of adding Gaffford cannot be overstated. Right now, we're 17th in defensive rating, which is completely unacceptable for a team with title aspirations. Gaffford would immediately vault us into the top 10, giving us the kind of defensive anchor that every championship team needs. He averaged 1.8 blocks per game last season, but his impact goes beyond the box score. He alters shots, he protects the rim, he communicates on defense, and he gives perimeter defenders the confidence to pressure the ball knowing they have help behind them. That's the difference between being a playoff team and being a championship contender. Offensively, Gafford's fit with Luka Doncic is already proven. They played together in Dallas and developed excellent chemistry in pick-and-roll situations. Gaffford is an elite lob threat who finishes at the rim at a high percentage, and he doesn't need plays called for him to be effective. He's the perfect complementary big man for a ball-dominant creator like Luka, and pairing them together would unlock offensive sets that we haven't been able to run consistently this season. The Luka Gaffford pick-and-roll would be one of the most efficient actions in the entire league. The contractual aspect is also crucial for our long-term planning. Gaffford is under contract through 2029 at reasonable numbers, which gives us cost certainty and allows us to build around him without worrying about him leaving in free agency. Compare that to our current situation with DeAndre Ayton, who has a player option next summer and could walk away for nothing if he decides to test free agency. Having Gaffford locked up long-term gives us stability and allows us to make other roster moves without constantly worrying about our center position. I want to address the elephant in the room, which is whether LeBron would even agree to this trade, given that he has significant influence over Lakers' decisions. The reality is that LeBron is a smart basketball mind who understands where he is in his career. If the Lakers approach him respectfully and explain that this move is about maximizing both his remaining time and the franchise's championship window, there's a path to making this work. LeBron could go to Dallas and compete for another title with Kyrie and AD, or he could potentially work out a buyout and sign with another contender. Either way, he'd have options that allow him to finish his career on his terms, but the timing of this potential trade is also important. We're early enough in the season that Dallas would get significant value from adding LeBron for a playoff push. And we're early enough that Gaffford could integrate into our system and develop chemistry with Luka before the postseason. Waiting until the trade deadline would make this more complicated logistically and give us less time to build continuity. If the Lakers are serious about making this, it needs to happen sooner rather than later. I also want to talk about what this means for our championship aspirations this season and beyond. With Gaffford anchoring our defense, with Luka and Reeves leading our offense, and with the right complementary pieces around them, we'd be legitimate contenders to win the Western Conference. We'd have the defense to slow down high-powered offenses. We'd have the offensive firepower to outscore teams, and we'd have the depth to survive the playoff grind. This isn't about punting on this season. This is about putting ourselves in the best position to win now and in the future. Looking at the bigger picture, this trade represents a philosophical shift in how the Lakers approach team building. We'd be prioritizing fit and timeline over name recognition. We'd be making the hard decision to move on from a legend in order to build something sustainable. We'd be showing that we're willing to be bold and strategic rather than sentimental. These are the kinds of decisions that separate championship organizations from teams that get stuck in mediocrity. The Western Conference is absolutely loaded with talent right now. The Nuggets have Jokic, the Suns have their big three, the Clippers have Kawhi and Paul George, and there are multiple other teams that can compete on any given night. To separate ourselves from that pack, we need to have a clear identity and roster construction that maximizes our strengths. Adding Daniel Gaffford while building around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves gives us that identity. Elite offense creation paired with elite rim protection and defense. Now I want to hear from you, Lakers Nation. I know this is controversial, and I know many of you will have strong opinions about trading LeBron James, but I want you to think about this strategically rather than emotionally. Do you believe this trade makes sense for our long-term championship aspirations? Would you be willing to move on from LeBron if it means getting the defensive anchor we desperately need in Daniel Gaffford? How do you see our future with Luka and Reeves as the centerpiece of this franchise? Drop your comments below, because I genuinely want to know what you're thinking about this potential move. In conclusion, the possibility of trading LeBron James for Daniel Gaffford represents a difficult but potentially necessary decision for the Lakers' championship future. Gaffford addresses our biggest weaknesses in rim protection, defense, and rebounding, while providing long-term contractual security. This trade would signal our commitment to building around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, giving them the complementary pieces they need to compete for championships over the next 5 years. While trading LeBron is emotionally difficult, we have to make decisions based on strategy rather than sentiment. I'm optimistic that if this trade happens, it positions us perfectly to compete for championships both now and in the future. This is the kind of bold move that championship organizations make. If you want to stay updated on all the latest Lakers news, trade rumors, and in-depth analysis, make sure you subscribe to Lakers News Fan Report. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and smash that like button to support the channel. Share this with your fellow Lakers fans because we need to have these conversations as a community. I'll see you in the next video with more exclusive content. Let's go, Lakers!